Just 2 weeks ago, it seemed like nothing could possibly be better for the Philadelphia Eagles. They had just beaten the Bears to advance to a record of 13-1, and it looked like they firmly had control of the #1 seed in the NFC and the NFC East division title. It really looked like nothing could go wrong for them moving forward. But you fast forward to now. It was revealed that Jalen Hurts had a shoulder injury just after that win over the Bears, and the Philadelphia Eagles have now lost 2 straight games to the Dallas Cowboys and now the New Orleans Saints. And that coveted #1 seed that it looked like the Philadelphia Eagles had firm control of is now in danger of slipping away from the Eagles as the season comes to a close. This was truly the worst case scenario for the Philadelphia Eagles, but now you have to ask the question, will things all work out in the end for the Eagles, or will things only get worse from here? Well, we're going to talk all about that in this video. Before we do that, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want consistent Philadelphia Eagles content and Philadelphia 76ers content. I do it all over here. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure you subscribe. And with that being said, let's get into the video. So let's start with what happened yesterday. So obviously the Eagles probably took their worst loss of the entire season to the Saints, and there's a lot that went wrong for the Eagles to lose this game. It was pretty much their worst performance of the entire season for multiple reasons. From the beginning, you could tell something was off with the Eagles. They just did not look 100% prepared and locked in and ready to go for this game. And the first thing I want to talk about when talking about this game is the coaching. I really didn't think the coaching was really smart, especially offensively. I thought they got too much away from one of their biggest strengths, which is running the football. There were stretches when they did it for a good amount of time, but they eventually just ended up ultimately going away from it, and I really didn't like that, especially to start the game. The Eagles were reluctant to run the ball, and the Eagles struggled to gain yards, gain first downs. It was just hard to watch the Eagles offensively in this game, and I think part of the reason was because the Eagles coaching staff opted to go away from the run game, especially with having your backup quarterback in the game. I don't understand the decision to not run the ball, especially when that is one of the strengths of your offense. But the main reason I think the Philadelphia Eagles lost this game, and I think most people would agree, is because of the play of Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew in this game was absolutely horrendous. He was staring down his receivers. He was missing targets. He was missing reads, and eventually he ended up making the biggest mistake of the entire game, which ultimately cost the Philadelphia Eagles the win, which was the pick six that he threw to Marshon Lattimore. Probably one of the worst pick sixes I've seen. He completely stared down A.J. Brown the entire time, and Marshon Lattimore just read it all the way. And A.J. Brown had some comments on that play at the end of the game, so take a listen.
It was initially pressed. We were trying to get Gardner's attention to look up, but he never looked back at me. The DB actually called it right out, and they basically doubled me on the play. So I just think, I just don't think he looked up. He saw one look and just stayed with that look.
Ultimately, this ended up costing the Eagles the game. And just in total, Philadelphia Eagles players were really frustrated after this game, obviously, with it being the worst loss of the entire season for the Eagles. A lot of them had some interesting comments after the game.
Just got to go back and watch the film and be brutally honest. Be brutally honest. I know that there are a handful of plays that I want to take back. And I don't care that my mom's here. I'm swearing because I'm emotional. It's a big loss. It's a big loss, and it's frustrating.
We just played terrible. That's that. Didn't execute. Didn't go out there and do the things we were supposed to do.
I could give two about clinching a first place seed right now. We got to get a lot of things fixed. I got to get a lot of things fixed. So,
judging by their comments, the Eagles seem to know they need to be better, and they're really upset with the outcome of this game, and they're going to work to be better next week. But I think it's just really unideal that the Philadelphia Eagles are having this lull and this low point in their season right now at the very end of the season when you want to be streaking towards the playoffs. You want to be on a win streak, getting hot and playing your best football, and instead the Philadelphia Eagles are out here playing their worst stretch of the season, losing back-to-back games. And now it comes down to one game. It all comes down to one game. The Eagles failed to clinch the NFC East and the #1 seed in the NFC 2 consecutive times. One time versus the Cowboys, one time versus the Saints, dropping both those games. It all comes down to this one game versus the New York Giants. If the Eagles win, they still get the 1 seed. They still get the NFC East division title. They still have everything they want right in front of them. They still control their own destiny. They still, if they go out there and get this win, can be the 1 seed, can be the NFC East division champions, but they have to go out there and earn it, which is something they haven't been able to do over these past 2 weeks. This game has become the biggest game of the entire season for the Eagles because of their back-to-back losses to the Cowboys, to the Saints. Not just because it's to clinch the 1 seed in the NFC East division title, but also just for their confidence moving forward into the playoffs. But their opponent next week is not just going to lay down and let the Philadelphia Eagles get what they want. The New York Giants don't owe the Philadelphia Eagles anything. They're going to come out here in Week 18 and try try to play spoiler for the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles have to make sure they avoid that. They have to make sure that they come out here and they get the win, whether the Giants play their starters or not. That's one of the things that has been a talking point ever since the Eagles lost this game and this next game became extremely important versus the Giants, is whether or not the Giants will play their starters, because the Giants did wrap up a playoff spot and they can't move up any higher, they can't move down any lower, so they're essentially playing for nothing, but they also hate the Eagles. So I would not be surprised at all, especially since it's sometimes good to have your starters play the week before just so they get a few reps in and so they're not coming off of not playing for an entire week moving into the playoffs. I feel like the Giants might potentially come out here and play their starters, although they haven't made a decision on it yet. They'll probably do that later in the week. They probably won't let anyone know until later in the week, so the Eagles have to game plan for, whatever's ahead of them, not knowing exactly what to expect with the Giants upcoming this week. So we'll see what happens on that front. But the Giants are a good team, obviously, having made the playoffs, and they're going to be a tough test for the Eagles no matter what, especially with so much riding on this game, with this being by far the most important game of this season, and with so much to lose heading up into this matchup. So let's look at the possibility of the Eagles losing this game. Obviously, there's multiple different scenarios that could play out, but ultimately, if the Philadelphia Eagles were to lose this game, they most likely would fall out of the number 1 seed and fall all the way down to the number 5 seed, assuming the Cowboys win, and then one of two teams would become the 1 seed, and those two teams would be the 49ers and Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys getting that 1 seed would just be horrendous. This would just be the ultimate, humongous nightmare scenario for the Eagles. This would just be the worst possible thing that could happen, the absolute worst thing that could happen. Imagine the Eagles completely choking away their entire season where they've been on such a roll. They've had such a great season, done everything they can to get to this point where they can secure that number 1 seed, and they lose it to their arch rival Dallas Cowboys. That would be absolutely horrendous and something that I really don't want to have to deal with. So let's hope that just does not happen. So obviously, this game versus the Giants is extremely important. So the Eagles need to do everything in their power to get this win. Do everything in their power to make sure they have their best chance of getting this win versus the Giants. But here's one thing. I have no confidence in Gardner Minshew. I'm sure most Philadelphia Eagles fans have no confidence in Gardner Minshew after this game versus the Saints. But that doesn't really matter at this point, because there's some good news on the horizon for the Eagles, and this is the main thing I've been waiting to talk about. Jalen Hurts was back at practice last week for the Eagles, and he is expected to be ready to go versus the New York Giants in Week 18, which is the absolute best possible thing any Eagles fan could hear right now, especially after watching Gardner Minshew play yesterday. Jalen Hurts could potentially come in here and save the Philadelphia Eagles at the end of this season. He got them to this point. He got them to 13-1 before we lost these last consecutive 2 games with Minshew playing, and now he's going to have to be the one that saves the Eagles and wins this last game versus the Giants to clinch the 1 seed, to clinch the NFC East, to clinch it all, and get to that ideal point where they don't have to play in the first round of the playoffs and they're sitting with home field advantage throughout the entire thing. And Jalen Hurts, obviously, judging by how we've seen Gardner Minshew play, how we've seen the offense play, the whole team perform over the past 2 weeks, is extremely important to the Eagles offense. Everybody knows that. He is the difference maker, and I think all the stupid theories earlier this season, just a couple weeks back with Micah Parsons and Chris Sims and all these guys saying Jalen Hurts is a system quarterback, he's a product of the Philadelphia Eagles system and them having such a talented team and all these weapons around him, everything has been debunked at this point. Jalen Hurts is clearly the system. He's not a product of the system, he is the system. And that's what makes him the MVP caliber quarterback that he has been this season. He has been such a difference maker for the Eagles all year, and him obviously going out has shed more of a light on how much the Eagles really do need him to succeed and do what they're trying to do this year. He's so crucial to their passing offense. He's so crucial to their run offense, his decision-making, his leadership. Everything that Jalen Hurts brings to the table is so important for the success of the Philadelphia Eagles. And now he will come back in an attempt to clinch the 1 seed and the NFC East division title. So finally, we get to this point in the video where I have to give my prediction and what I think is going to happen. I'm hoping, I think the Eagles should win this game, especially if the Giants play some of their backups, even if it's not for the whole game that they play their backups and they play the starters for part of it. I still think the Eagles are the better team. They are the better team. And Jalen Hurts coming back bodes well for the Philadelphia Eagles being able to win this game. So I'm praying they come away with this win. I think they will. I pray they will. I really hope I'm right because they need it. Because if they don't win this game versus the Giants, that would just be the ultimate collapse. For them to be so good for most of the season, so consistent, and in a lot of people's opinions, the best team in football, for them to just lose 3 straight and fall all the way to the 5th seed would just be the ultimate collapse. And it would make the Philadelphia Eagles' goal of winning the Super Bowl this season so much more difficult. They'd have to go on the road in the playoffs. They'd have to play in that first round, and it would just suck to see all the success that the Eagles have had this season go to waste right at the end. So right now, this Philadelphia Eagles team has to lock in. They have to learn from this loss versus the Saints. They have to get better. Jalen Hurts has to come back, and he has to perform, and the entire team as a whole has to perform. So they come out there, get this win versus the Giants, and clinch the 1 seed and clinch the NFC East. But that's pretty much all I got for this video, guys. If you want more Philadelphia Eagles content, you can go watch this video right here. I'm also going to be doing a vlog tomorrow because I was at the Eagles versus Saints game, so be on the lookout for that. Subscribe to the channel if you want more videos just like this, covering the Eagles, covering the Sixers. Drop a like on the video to help push it out to other people. And with that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this video. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.